Brown Dust 2 being censored is the last damn thing I would have heard, that would make sense to me. And somehow that is exactly what is happening, right? Ultimately, we're getting characters that have released skins and designs and stuff that's just getting censored for some reason. And I am feeling so out of the loop, right? I haven't touched Brown Dust 2 in a good minute when it comes down to it. And that's not because, oh, the game is buns or anything like that. The game is actually pretty damn good. But ultimately, I just haven't touched it because I just focus on so much other shit. I don't have time to also focus on, you know, just Brown Dust 2 as well, right? As much as I would like to get some of the cast and characters because they about find the shit, it's not necessarily something I could just ultimately do. And when it comes down to it, it just seems like they're making a bad call here, honestly, right? I think they even had like a whole like a message when there was like in a car or something like that, where they basically say they would rather let the store kill their game before the players kill it. That's a interesting choice, because high key, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You can always find a different store, you can always find a different solution, but the moment players kind of just feel betrayed, the moment that players don't necessarily get the shit that they want, and you could absolutely change and fix that, then 9 times out of 10, the players will just leave your game. The players will very much not be here for it when it comes down to it. Now, granted, these changes are like something that's just new and just been announced, so we'll have to see what the results actually are going to end up being. I still do think Brown Dust 2, despite the changes, will probably still be just fine. But when it comes down to it though, it's still just something that you don't want to necessarily do. Especially with a game as lewd as that, with wild and ass characters that exist in different ways that I could possibly have never imagined a gacha to do. It is just, again, wild to hear them be like, yeah, we're gonna have to censor stuff, and then we're gonna have to really deal with that as time kind of goes on. It's a bit weird. This is not like, obviously like your Blue Archive situation, right? Because anytime Blue Archive do something weird, or they do something that's not really for the people, when it comes down to it, they usually retract that shit immediately, and that's why Blue Archive stays on top a lot of the time. That's why people, despite people shitting on them for like lolly content and whatever the hell else they got, ultimately Blue Archive still has a loving fan base, still have a thriving community, and know how to gatekeep the shit out of things, just because damn well they are just really good at what they do. And then obviously the devs listen when it comes down to it, instead of trying to I guess try to hold their own audience when it comes down to it, right? It's again something that very much every single other gacha game needs to learn. Now, from what I understand as well too, this isn't a decision that they want to make. This is more so a decision that they're forced to kind of do because, again, Steam's rules and stuff like that too. Which, again, Steam has been the most wishy-washy, flip-floppity, having ass platform for games right now for a good minute, right? Really, since the whole MasterCard Visa thing kind of went down, they've been very weird about what games get put on there, what games can be allowed, what NSFW stuff can be chucked in there without any problems. It's weird. It's definitely weird, because how can some games be fine, but then other games be not so fine? Or you have to change it up to a point where certain things is taken off. It reminds me, honestly, with the way they kind of talk about removing certain things, it's slowly starting to remind me of Siren Conqueror versus Renewal, and how they took out diorama mode and all that other crazy shit. And it's actually kind of starting to piss me off, honestly. And I'm not even that deep of a Brown Dust 2 enjoyer, honestly, right? Like, the game, actually, again, with the gameplay, it's not necessarily all that bad, but I'm not necessarily someone that just plunges themselves into Brown Dust that damn hard. That being said, there's a fine amounts of hoes in Brown Dust 2, and the fact that now all of them basically could be at jeopardy for censorship is wild. Because really what they did was censor certain costumes and certain characters, lolly oriented characters when it comes down to it, and then kind of go about it for that. And people could say, oh well, it's just those sort of characters and it's only those sort of costumes, it's gonna be perfectly fine. But not really. That's not how censorship works. And again, to go back over this whole censorship nonsense talk that we basically talked to death 5,000 times over, it could start out with one thing, but then it can also jump into another thing. and then another, and then it just keeps going, and you don't know when the censorship train is going to effing stop. That is why when we first talked about censorship, like last year, or at least not first talked about it, but like when it really started to ramp up last year, talking about how, oh, lolly content is getting banned in some shape and form, or it's starting to get hit, and people trying to pass bullshit, trying to hoe it in some shape and form. Then I'm like, yeah, you might want to fight with this. You might want to fight against the censorship, but no one does. And then that's when it started going to violence and other aspects of anime and games, and started to really affect us in the weirdest possible ways. And now that's how we got to the whole age verification and internet and ID checks and all this other stuff. That's how we got from that point. From that one point of people not giving a shit about the one thing that you should give a shit about, it is literally how all that stuff started to come to be. And this is basically no different of a situation here. The only difference is it's not going to go to that wide of a scale. This is more so about your game, what's going to get allowed to be there and to be put in, and how much is that going to be changed up, right? It could be this right now that's just being censored, but how much of the other stuff is going to get censored down the line. And honestly, this brings up another topic that I was going to say for another video, but I kind of will just chuck it in here too, which is why it is so hard to make a game that has adult elements in it and be successful when it comes down to it. Because for some reason, no matter what it is, who it is or what, it has to be hoed in some shape and form. You don't understand why, you don't understand what is the case of it, but it has to be hoed in some shape and form, because if it's not hoed, then it can't be on the platforms that you want to distribute it on. It's so weird every single damn step of the way. It's always weird when it comes down to it. Now you're probably wondering what you mean by this. Essentially, if you really think about it, think about basically all the really crazy Gensai games that came out like just over the course of time, and then really think about things like the itch.io situation as well. Think about what that has done and how you can't really have those sort of games to be on there, or at least at the time when they did get attacked and get taken down, how you couldn't get paid for those certain games. I don't even know they even fixed that situation still. It's just like, if you come up with a lewd ass game and you try to actually make it work and you implement it, ultimately at some point in time it gets hoed, and I don't get why. And sometimes you had to do your own self-censorship just so you don't cause problems for yourself in the future. That's why people, as they pointed out, that they're starting to get rid of like the ages of characters when it comes down to it, in terms of like of what they already established in the game. Which, granted, that's something that I feel like most games should honestly do when it comes down to any anime style games. If like Hoyoverse, for example, they don't have any ages at all for what character is who and all that sort of stuff when it comes down to it, because ultimately some characters are just ridiculous in age, some other characters are just very much looking like an obvious sort of age, but ultimately you can't really tell when it comes down to it, because again, there's no official ages at all. And a lot of the world that Sabat works with kind of doesn't make sense, right? Let's just keep very much a set. Like, Diona looks like 6 years old, but ultimately she also bartends. Like, that doesn't make sense in a realistic sort of vision of how that would go, but that's kind of like the point. It's a fantasy setting. It's fictional. At the end of the day, you can have a lolly do the absolute most craziest shit, and then ultimately it can still be a character that could be, above the age of 18, but they'll never really tell you because, obviously they don't have to. And plus, it'll just be less of a problem to honestly really deal with. Honestly, I don't know why Brundos even had ages in the first damn place. I don't really think it matters to a high-ass extent to have character ages. Hell, my own damn OC characters, they don't have effing ages. They kinda sorta do, but it's only for me to kinda know, and I will never tell you what those ages really are. The only person that probably has an age is the main character themselves, and that's kinda about it. Right? That's literally about it. But ultimately, I'm still never giving you the actual age of any of my own damn characters. And that's just something I made of my own decision. So, when people come through and they were to see a character that they like, and it just so happens to be a lolly character, and you want to do some wild and shit to them, then don't feel too damn bad, because you don't know how old they actually are. Granted, the fact that that has to be a thing for people to honestly, have for them to enjoy any character also at the same time is also really effing sad when it comes down to it. But it is what it is at this standpoint. And I think what's really also like too baffling as well when it comes down to it too is that you censoring some of the other lolly characters in the past, right? But ultimately, you're dropping a new lolly character who's thick as shit, by the way. Oh my gosh. It's gonna be hard to hate this damn game. But you have this lolly character that's bouncing on this damn bubble or a ball or whatever the hell looking thick as shit that need to be bouncing on me. And ultimately, you have that coming up next patch, but you censor the other lolly characters that also are basically on that same sort of level. It's confusing. It's very much weird when it comes down to it. Apparently, they was gonna release a skin. Basically, you mean to tell me that character was gonna get a prestigious skin, and the only and you couldn't, and you're not gonna drop that shit because it's not, it might not release by it might not be like expectation wise be up to standard. It might not be what you want. You can't just tell somebody that a fire ass skin or a fire ass design exists and then ultimately you tell people it's too much and then you can't show it. It's just like, boy, if you don't drop that shit, I want to see. I will decide if it's too much for me when it comes down to it, right? This is again probably Steam being weird and probably just saying that, it probably was not going to fit in, so they probably just scrapped it ahead of time, which is so whack. It is again so whack. Why would you just take away again the option? Honestly, what it feels like, I feel like if you're gonna do Steam, if you're gonna use Steam as a platform and use that for your game to have people to play it and have access to it, I'm gonna be so dead ass when I say this. Genuinely speaking, you should 100%, 9 times out of 10, just let the Steam version be the censor version and then keep everything else be the regular version of what it is, instead of trying to absolutely shift the change. And it would be some nonsense if only in South Korea everything is still unaltered, if they do like an emergency change to the rules or whatever and all that sort of stuff too. Like, that would be the most BS thing possible when it comes down to it, right? It genuinely just would be. But you could do that though. That's the thing. You could do that. And the only reason why I would even suggest something like that is because Hoyoverse did that with Genshin as well. With the main Knights of Favonius characters or the 1.0 characters, when it comes down to it, basically have them have the 2 alter outfits. You can always flip back and forth to, which one you have outside of China. China literally will not, go back to that old design of their outfits. They literally have to deal with just the censored shit when it comes down to it. But ultimately, at least outside of China, you can flip-flop it whenever the hell you want to with designs and stuff like that. And that's amazing. And they said they'll maybe release it later, but even then, it's probably going to be a heavily altered outfit when it comes down to it. It's probably not going to be anywhere near raunchy as it probably once was when it comes down to it, right? And again, with all this censorship and all this stuff kind of being, done the way it is, it kind of also leads you to wonder how much lewdness of this game is actually gonna still stay the way it is, right? Because easily they could say, yeah, this game is lewd, and it still probably could be, but is it going to be more tame? Is it actually going to be, still the same level of wildness? Is it just going to be, what they deem it to be right now, right? It's who really effing knows. And again, this is just fresh off the press sort of news, so we don't really know until time kind of flies by. But ultimately, that's going to be the make or break when it comes down to it, right? Again, any game that comes through with any lewdness whatsoever, somehow, for some reason, just get the short end of the stick, and it's never really good. It's never really a good time. And it's just not fun for anybody, because ultimately, it will always face some type of scrutiny, some type of criticism by the platformers, or whatever, and essentially, they will always try to hoe it in some shape and form. it's just not easy. It's genuinely not easy, especially if you carry an anime aesthetic. For some reason, it's just not easy. That's essentially all I gotta say for this one, so hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on the way out. Also follow my socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's your boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.